Can you tell us a little bit about Greylock? People may not know that much about some of your strategy and how you've been able to kind of hit a lot of those high-performing companies. Can you talk a little, what's the thinking in your investment strategy?
We hire operators that have been in great companies and have seen, the really big outcomes. And so they have a sense of where those are in the industries that they invest in. They also have a sense of what great looks like relative to good. And we really think that's important.
And a lot of your partners have worked in high-level positions in some of these startups in the past.
I think we were kind of early pioneers in saying, can we find senior executives, and now most of them actually are founders and CEOs too, that are in product, because we think you have to really understand the customer and product, and that have been in small, hyper-growth, and public companies in most all cases, because that's how you understand sort of what each one of those phases are, and you can really help an investment through its entire life cycle. And every partner looks like that now.
And can you talk about some of those things that you do for your entrepreneurs that you guys don't normally talk about this a lot, but you actually have a lot of programs and things that you do with the entrepreneurs behind the scenes that help them out?
Our lens is, again, always that sort of operator entrepreneur's lens, since we all always were that in our backgrounds. We also realize when you're starting out, you really need help with engineers, designers, and product managers. And so we have a group of 5 or 6 people run by an individual named Dan Portillo, and all they do is hire for our startups those functional areas below the VP level. And by the way, your board member is going to be someone that's been in companies, that's been there and operated on the product side, and so they can be incredibly helpful. Whether it's all the way to the extremes of a Reid Hoffman, who founded LinkedIn, as you know, and is now the executive chairman, and I think unprecedented in the history of venture, my partner Anil Bushri, while he was a VC at Greylock, co-founds Workday, and is now the co-CEO of Workday, a $10 billion public company. So you just can't find that kind of help.
So it's like poetry slam with Reid Hoffman. That's
yeah,
pretty
right. Like
pretty,
what kind of think.
Does he give you the gong if you don't?
No, we don't give you the gong. We'll give honest feedback.
Okay.
I mean, I think our companies appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you just the number of people that would die for that kind of engagement, in any sense, and they get it here is great.
If you look back at some of the companies either you or your partners have worked with, how do you see that type of potential when you meet someone who's 19 years old or something like that?
Yeah, look, it's hard. I think, again, where we think we can make the difference to make those kind of really tough calls is because we've been there, because we were in those companies, because in some cases we were those people, the equivalent of those people. You get an instinct for whether the opportunity that they sense could really be that great and what it's going to take to do that. And then you get an instinct, I think, about the person. Are they really driven for excellence? Are they going to be a learner? If you start at 19 or 20, you've got to be learning. And if your ego drives you to the point where you're refusing to learn, you're never going to make it and scale through. And so whether it's a Reid Hoffman and having worked with him and seen him always learning, watching a Mark Zuckerberg, up close, having been involved from early 2006 on, he never stops learning. And he always looks for advisors and new people to interact with that will help him and his company get better.
There's been a lot of enterprise companies that seem to be the hot thing, at least in the public markets. Those are a lot of the IPOs. Do you think that is that just a cyclical thing that's just in the past year, or what do you think is happening there in terms of that move to enterprise companies?
There's just so much excitement, and that's coming as somewhat of a outgrowth of the things that have been happening on the internet with the Facebooks and the LinkedIns and the Pandoras, et cetera. And so we see a lot of vibrancy there, and luckily we've been consistent, and so we've stayed there, and we can learn and find those early. I think the same thing will happen in consumer, though. You see the massive change that's happening as big data flows into consumer back again, and started there and is continuing to innovate in the consumer side, and as mobile is this huge revolution that will continue to redefine everything in the consumer stack again. So
in the venture industry these days, it seems like everyone's blogging or getting their name out there, which in the past may not have been the case. How do you personally think about your role in the industry or in the firm? Because you're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, but you're not always necessarily out there in the public, right?
Yeah, one of the things that's really true of our culture is, and we think this about our companies too, is that you have to be authentic. And my style isn't to be out there and banging the drum or screaming, and so we are proud of the results we have, and so we try to talk about them, but it's not really our style. It's like running an all-star band. I mean, it's great. I can stand behind the scenes, do what I need to do, work with great folks. I'm fine. I don't need that light. I want them to have that light. Well, you're a great entrepreneur like an Oren Jacob or a Nirav Tolia, you know, whether you're a successful entrepreneur like Reid Hoffman or a Mark Zuckerberg, I think that's great. And, you know, again, everyone should remain authentic to who they are. One of the things about Greylock is, you know, most people wouldn't know we're a 45-year-old company about to be 50 years old very soon. There's a final exam in venture every 4 to 6 years. And the scary thing is you need to get an A on all the disciplines. You need to be in generational planning, you need to be on great deal flow, you need to be on great outcomes, and you need to be on great company building. And if you don't do all of those, you don't survive. And so there's a kind of unique pressure when you're at a firm that's been around and thrived for 50 years on that kind of excellence. You don't just feel like the need to find the great company for next year or the great outcome for next year. You want to build great companies that last for a long time, and you want to be a great company that's around for the next 50 years.